Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video for EVE Online. In today's video I want to talk about the Guristas Pirates Alligator. I've been flying this for about a week now since Havoc launched, grabbed one of these nice and early, and I've been running it through a lot of C3 combat sites to figure out whether or not this ship might be something you'd be interested in flying, what kind of person it takes to want to fly this, and how well it does in various different wormhole-related environments. Now, obviously, this is a brand new ship. The prices are still a little bit high on it, but they are due to come down very soon. Obviously, we'll cover that in more depth as the video goes on. But if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the Alligator, especially in sort of a wormhole-based environment, then this is the video for you. If you find this useful or enjoyable, let me know. Hit like, drop a comment down below. Both of those things massively help the channel out by helping YouTube to recommend it to more people. Basically, it says, oh, you like the content, you're engaging with the content, maybe other people will too. So it's a big thank you to everyone who drops a comment or hits like. If you do want to go the extra mile to help support this channel, and you want to do so in a financial way, you can do so in two main ways. First of all is to join my Patreon page. There you can pledge to support, get your name in the stars at the end of every video. You can also just do a one-off tip through my PayPal tip jar. Both of those are linked in the description down below, and both really help me to keep making content by fueling me with the necessary caffeine to help keep me upbeat and doing what I do. Finally, if you're fairly new to EVE Online, perhaps watching this video just to get an idea of where you'd like to go in the game, two more links in the description down there for you. First of all, my referral link. Click on that, log in, you earn 1 million free skill points. You don't need a new account, if you haven't used a referral link before, you'll get 1 million free skill points. I get a small kickback from that as well, which is really helpful, helps me earn ISK in game to keep buying ships, getting them blown up so that I can make the content that you guys are enjoying. Finally, the Catskull Community Discord is linked down there as well. Excellent way to get in touch with a load of other EVE Online players, very enthusiastic. If you need help in the game, you want to ask questions, it's how you get in contact with me, how you get in contact with a load of like-minded individuals, and how you apply to join the Catskull Cartel if flying with us through wormholes or HiSec sounds like your kind of jam. Anyway, all of that said and done then, let's jump right in to talking about the Guristas Pirates Alligator and why I really like this ship. I am personally a humongous fan of the Guristas Pirates ships, so it is no surprise that getting an Alligator on day one was something that I was really keen to do, to get testing it, flying it around in my preferred environment, which is Wormhole PvE, just to see what this bad boy could do. And I'm glad to say it is definitely a viable ship. It's a lot of fun to fly if you're into the Guristas Pirates theming of missiles and drones, and it also fills a really unique niche, because there is no other ship out there that is drones, missiles, and shields quite so effectively. I mean, alternatively, you kind of have the Damnation, I suppose, more of an armor tank ship, and it's also Tech 2, whereas the Alligator, being a pirate faction vessel, does not require Omega, which means if you want to be flying battle cruisers, you can go up to, say, Caldari and Galente Battlecruiser 4, fill in your other skills around it, and still fly this as an alpha pilot. Yes, right now it's a bit expensive. Before we get, further into this video, I want to address that right off, because every time I've talked about, say, the Mamba or the Mechaball, a lot of people have done the whole thing of, oh, but Benzie, these ships are so expensive, why would you ever fly them? It's because they're brand new, right? I hope that's not a difficult concept. They're brand new ships, which means demand is sky high for them at the moment, and people are just shoving them on the market at ridiculous prices. At the time of me making this video, the cost of an Alligator hull is anywhere between 900 million and about 1.2 billion. If you're lucky on the market, you'll find them as low as 900, but they can be up to 1.2. As more people engage with the Havoc expansion and start running pirate incursions, earning LP that they can spend in the pirate stores, you'll start to see those, the Alligators appearing more regularly on the market, and the price will go down. I fully anticipate that this will naturally settle somewhere between the cost of an empty healer hull or a rattlesnake, and if a healer's about 450 million and a rattlesnake's about 1 billion, this should land somewhere in the 600, maybe up to 700 million region eventually. I'm not doing this as this is a great option now and it's nice and cheap, but they will come down in price, and if you're looking for a ship that is of the Guristas flavour, but of a battlecruiser size, well, there's nothing else out there, right? And it's surprisingly alpha friendly. With all that said though, let's have a look at the Alligator in its own individual context. Looking at it first at its characteristics and role bonuses, we have a mix of the Guristas Pirates bonuses and traditional Battlecruiser bonuses. So from the Battlecruiser side of things, we have the ability to use Command Burst modules and a 50% bonus to Command Burst area of effect range. Obviously that doesn't help us when we're flying it solo, like in the context of this video, but if you are flying in a small gang, for example if you wanted to rat C3s a little bit faster, or even try some C4 content, that's a really nice boost because it's going to allow you to hit more people in your fleet and assist them with the same command bursts that you're going to be running. The Guristas Pirates role bonuses are of course the 500% bonus to medium combat drone damage and 250% bonus to medium combat drone hit points. Now a quick word on how those work, because I have checked this, I've consulted with numerous people. It is a bonus, which means you're already getting 100% combat drone damage, right? Then you add a 500% bonus onto that, that now means 600% combat drone damage in total, meaning your 2 combat drones are 600% total, meaning each combat drone is 6 combat drones, so for a total of 12 combat drones worth of damage. 12 medium combat drones worth of hit points is absolutely monumental. That's a lot of damage coming off those drones, and that's how you calculate it. The 250% bonus to medium combat drone hit points means they are 3.5 drones in terms of EHP. Now, while the fit that I'm going to be showcasing, and will be linked in the description below, is using standard Tech 2 drones, this does mean there is definitely an argument to be made for using Caldari Navy or Federation Navy drones, for example, because they do have a larger hit point base to start with, and thus a 250% increase to a bigger number is a bigger boost, right? Like basic maths there. So if you do want to go down the route of using Navy issue drones, you are going to get some really quite nice EHP out of them. Finally, there is a 12.5% bonus to drone micro-warp velocity, which means those drones essentially can actually stick to their target that little bit faster. They get to their target, start orbiting a little bit sooner on. Then we have the Caldari Battlecruiser and Gallente Battlecruiser bonuses. Now, if you're going to get the most out of this ship, I would strongly recommend training those at least to 4. At 4, you're going to get a 16% bonus to all shield resistances, 4% bonus per level, and at Caldari Gallente Battlecruiser is going to give you a 40% bonus to kinetic and thermal, heavy missile, and heavy assault missile damage. Now, it's worth just reiterating there and just really nailing in, that is to kinetic and thermal missiles only out of heavy missile and heavy assault missile launchers. That is only going to apply to Scourge and Inferno, and it does not apply to rapid light missiles. So just forget that rapid lights even exist. I know it's a very popular option on the healer, for example, using a healer with rapid lights. The Alligator does not get bonuses to light missiles, therefore there is no point doing it, and you are only going to be using either Scourge or Inferno missiles for the kinetic and thermal damage boosts. Obviously, if you do have the capability of training Caldari Battlecruiser or Gallente Battlecruiser to 5, you should absolutely do so, because going from 16% shield resistance up to 20% shield resistance is pretty big. That is a not unsizable jump. Same as a 40% bonus to damage compared to a 50% bonus is a huge jump. If you can only pick one of them, I would personally go for the Caldari one first, because surviving, in my opinion, is more important than quicker clear times, but I will leave that decision up to you. If we have a look at the fitting page as well, it's basically a standard Drake in terms of its slot layout, with a few differences to things like its CPU, power grid, shield, that kind of thing. So we're looking at 7 high slots, 6 of which are launcher hardpoints. No turrets on here at all, so you can get 6 launchers, leaving you with 1 utility high slot. And based on those traits and characteristics, I wonder what we're going to put in that empty utility, right? We then have 6 medium power slots, that strongly obviously favours shield tanking, and 4 low power slots, which we can use again for shield tanking or damage increase, and there's all kinds of things we can do with that, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. 3 medium rig slots, so much so standard. Being a Guristas ship as well, expect the usual drone capacity to be quite large. 100 cubic meters means we can carry a lot of medium drones here. It's obviously medium drones that the Alligator is bonused to, so they're what you're going to be wanting to use. We can fit 10 medium drones in that drone bay, but with only 20 megabits per second of bandwidth, we can only launch 2 of them. That's typical Guristas. If you look at the Worm, the Healer, the Mumba, the Rattlesnake, they all launch 2 drones of their size. Alligator, exactly the same. 2 medium drones getting that 6 times damage bonus, essentially is the damage of 12 medium drones, and each of them has the hit points of 3.5 medium drones, which is just huge. Absolutely huge. But anyway, with all of that said, let's look at the fit that I'm running. Now again, this fit is going to be linked in the description down below. It does have some changes over the previous video. If you saw my video talking about the first look at the Alligator and Kizreal, since playing around with the Alligator a bit more, I have tweaked the fit quite dramatically. When I first ran this, I ran it as a passive shield tank fit using heavy assault missiles, and I found that heavy assault missiles, even using guidance computers for range, just really, because of the speed of the Alligator, I found that I wasn't able to hold that range quite effectively, and thus I spent a lot of the time just slow boating around trying to maintain range, and it just didn't work particularly well. So instead, this time around, I've swapped those hams for heavy missiles. Not normally a huge fan of heavy missile in general. I've only just reached heavy missile specialization 5. It was one of the last weapon specialization skills I wanted for the ships that I fly, because I don't really use heavy missiles all that much, but here on the Alligator, I think they work. We're getting 47 kilometer maximum flight range out of these. Combine that with our drone's 57 kilometer currently drone control range as well, means essentially we can be attacking anything that's within 47 kilometers, and that's almost everything in these combat sites. You'll find that you don't need to be like moving around all that much in the site with 47 kilometer range, and of course if you need longer range, you could just use Caldari Navy Scourge missiles or Caldari Navy Inferno heavy missiles, for example, and those will give you even longer ranges, just if you absolutely need to hit that 57 kilometer mark. Essentially though, I just found that the hams were a little bit higher DPS perhaps, but just didn't have the range to really make that viable. The other high slot, the utility high slot, is of course a shield command burst too. Now I'm using the shield harmonizing charge to push up my personal shield resistances that little bit higher. Obviously the active charge is pointless because we are still using a passive shield fit, but you could also use the extending charge if you really wanted to, but I find that the additional resistances actually worked out better. You may also note that on the subject of shield tanking, whereas before I was doing a passive fit with 2 large extenders and 1 medium, I've still got those 2 Caldari Navy large shield extenders, but I swapped the medium out for a Multispectrum Shield Hardener II. This does make the ship a little bit more capacitor sensitive. Certainly when you're getting muted, you can start to run out of capacitor, but we're not going to have the propulsion mod on for the most part. 4.7 gigajoules per second stability, not particularly great. We are going to go unstable very quickly, but you should find that you can kill the newts in the time it takes to actually maintain that stability. And even if that goes down, it's not a humongous drop. Yes, we go from, what was it? 74,000 EHP down to basically 60,000 EHP. We lose 14,000 effective hit points when we are completely muted, but we are still recharging at a rate of 177 hit points per second. I've also got an EM Shield Amplifier II in here to pull up those resistances just a little bit higher. You'll see that with all this fit, we've got 61% being our lowest resistance of thermal, 69% there for electromagnetic, 71% kinetic, and 76% explosive. Again, some people have said to me, but, you know, sleepers do omni damage. How does that work in this kind of sense? Sleepers don't do omni damage. They've got turrets that do electromagnetic and thermal. They've got missiles that do explosive and kinetic. Now, on a ship like this, you do actually want to balance these as much as possible because you're going to be getting hit by both fairly effectively. Certain ships, if you're going, you know, if you're small and fast, you'll find you tend to avoid the missiles, for example, so the explosive and kinetic resistances aren't as important as, say, the electromagnetic and thermal are because you're getting hit by the turrets more often. Different ships will get hit by different parts of the sleepers, and different sites will have different sleepers that have more missiles or more turrets. So yeah, there's that. For the final parts of the shield tanking approach, we have 2 Caldari Navy shield power relays in the low slots just to pull up those hit points per second. Nice heavy HP per second regeneration means we can actually take a decent amount of damage and still keep it passively recharging. Now again, this is where the extender does actually help a bit because it pushes that up a little bit higher, but I found that swapping to the multi-spectrum actually gave me less damage incoming, which meant I could afford the lower HP per second recharge rate because I was taking less damage overall. But different strokes for different folks. Some people prefer the faster recharge, some people prefer the reduced incoming damage. Depends on your personal playstyle, I guess. Now, I did put in a Gistum C-Type 10 meganewton afterburner here. With this active, we get 504.1 meters per second. You might decide that actually you think, yeah, I'm just going to stick with something like, you know, just a standard 10 meganewton afterburner 2. That will do fine. This is not a particularly necessary slot. It's useful for getting around a little bit faster, but you can actually run without this. I have played around with this and swapped other things into there on the shield tanking front just to get a bit more survivability. But I found that this fit that we're looking at here gave a nice balance of maneuverability with survivability. If you're just going to land in a site and orbit your MTU, for example, then yeah, you can swap the propulsion unit there for some more shield tank, whatever you fancy, whether it's adding another extender, whether it's adding, you know, a battery, or whatever you fancy. There's all kinds of different things you could do with that slot. It's not really an important one. The final mid slot is a target painter. I've only gone for a phased scoped because it's all I had in my station at the time of me testing all of this. Ultimately, I couldn't be bothered to run to jitter for anything more expensive or exciting, but if you've got, say, a Target Painter 2 or a Republic Fleet Target Painter, yeah, it's going to be better than running this. Why a Target Painter? Well, because most enemies are going to be outside of our web range for the most part. We're operating on a theoretical 47km maximum range, therefore webs being 10 to 14 kilometers don't really get much use. And a guidance computer? Yeah, a guidance computer is usually better than a painter when you're running solo, but it only obviously affects the missiles on this ship. And we're getting 485.2 DPS out of our drones, and a total of 913.7 DPS out of everything. There are no implants being used at the time of me showcasing this, by the way. I'm in a completely fresh clone, so obviously if you do want to fit some implants for things like missile damage and application, or drone damage, or whatever you can do, you can get better than I've got here. But I wanted to keep things basic. Obviously, the target painter is going to help those drones as well, whereas the guidance computer is only going to help with the missiles. So that's why I went for a painter on this. On the subject of helping out drones, I've gone for two C3X Hivaa Saitsuo ballistic control systems. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily know about these, and I absolutely love these modules. Some people say, oh, just go for drone damage amplifiers in the low slot, right? Because you're going to get a better overall effect, because you're getting more out of your drones than you are out of your missiles. Yeah, sure. Or we could fit one of these because this way around we get the 10% rate of fire bonus for missiles, 10% damage bonus for missiles, and we get a 15% increase to drone damage. This overall gives a significantly larger DPS increase than a ballistic control unit or a drone damage amplifier would. I also really love the fact that Hivaa Saitsuo is an old phrase from Caldari history meaning good hunting, and often used as a means of wishing someone luck in military circles. And that just goes really nicely with the fact that the Guristas pirates, the word Guristas means naughty in Caldari. So Guristas pirates means naughty pirates. Nice little bit of lore and background there to it, but I just love these modules on the Guristas ships because they give an overall better DPS increase than using either a ballistic control system or a drone damage amplifier. Really underrated bit of tech there. Use those on your Guristas ships. For the rigs, I've gone for 3 medium core defense field Purger 2s. These again help with that shield recharge rating. I did have someone in the comment section of the Alligator Kisriel video, forgive me, I don't remember the name, suggest that perhaps I should put a shield extender rig in here instead of one of these field purges. It actually gave not that much additional EHP at the expense of a lot. I mean, heck, if I turn one of these off, you'll see I go from 177 down to 132 hit points per second. That's a lot of HP per second drop. Losing that field purge 2, and the extender did not make up for that. It actually made the ship a lot more fragile, so I've just gone for a full 3 field purges there, core defense field purger 2s, just to get that resistance all the way up. Now, as for which drones you should use, again, I'm just currently using standard Tech 2, not Ogres, Hammerhead 2s and Vespa 2s. Vespas, I think, actually give a better clear time overall because they've got that nice mix of speed, application, and very good damage, whereas the Hammerheads have better damage, so you get higher DPS overall, but it doesn't apply as well. Of course, if you carry both, you can swap between them. If you carry even some of the Amal or the Mimitar ones, you can actually do even better against certain targets if you're the kind of person who wants to micromanage your drones. As it happens, I don't, so I tend to just use Vespas and kind of just keep it simple, right? Best of both worlds, in my opinion, without the need to micromanage. But if you are willing to micromanage your drones, yeah, obviously swap them depending on what you're shooting at. Maybe even use things like Valkyries if you're going up against some of the frigates. It's kind of up to you. You can sacrifice the DPS for application, or you can just kind of, you know, leave it with the one type of drones. That's what I do. Maybe it's a bit lazy to do it that way, but yeah, that's how I run it. Obviously, make sure that you are carrying only Scourge heavy missiles or Inferno heavy missiles. You don't need, if you're going up against sleepers, you've got Omni Resist, so you only need one type. Don't need Scourge and Inferno. Obviously, I have a load of Scourge kicking around because I fly a lot of Caldari ships that also just get the kinetic bonus, so Scourge, I tend to have a big stock of those. You can go for Scourge Furies. I would probably carry some Caldari Navies just in case you need that little bit of extra range as well. Sacrifice a touch of DPS, but if you can hit further out, that's always going to be a good thing. Obviously, make sure as well you have the scripts required to run the Shield Command Burst 2. You need those charges in there. Shield Harmonizing Charges are absolutely your best bet, unless you are ratting with someone else who's already using a Command Burst and has the Harmonizing Charge, at which point bring Extender Charges. You just never need the active charge. That's all I need to mention for that. Now anyway, I am going to move into a combat demonstration now, but with a slight difference on how I normally showcase it, as I'll explain in just a second. Now, normally when doing this, I would showcase the actual fit that I've just shown you in action. However, this time around, I've been having a lot of issues with OBS recently where it's just not been recording stuff. I need to figure out what's going on here. But I kind of wanted to showcase why I changed from the previous fit. So I've got some footage here of the heavy assault missile fit, and it kind of showcases nicely why the hams didn't quite work. I've come here into the Outpost Frontier Stronghold. This is the hardest of the C3 sites to run, so it seemed like a good one to sort of showcase to you all where the problems lie with heavy assault missiles. Now, coming here into the first wave, you can see that all of the turrets and the ships are really far away. I can send my drones off after things and they can start to pull things down, but with the speed I'm going, 500 meters per second, I'm just not quite getting into range with those hams as quickly as I would like, and it's therefore taking a lot of time to sort of just get into range and start doing damage, and that's not fun. That just leads to massive increased clear times. It also means I have to sort of fly at things almost in a straight line sometimes in order to be able to range onto them. There's so many little issues with the hams here. It actually meant survivability was right down as well because I'm in range of everything. Everything is hitting me all the time, and that became a little bit too much for the shield tank to hold up with. You can see here the passive tank is not holding with 3 Argos and a Sleepless Defender. I'd run a couple of other sites like the Fortification Frontier and had similar issues that when anything's a bit far away, it takes so long to get into range that you just you take so much additional damage than what you need to, because you're not killing things quickly. The faster you can kill things, the less incoming damage you're going to take, because if there are 5 ships and you can kill 3 of them quickly, suddenly you're only being shot at by 2 ships. But if it takes you ages to kill even one of those ships, then all 5 of them are shooting at you for longer, if that makes sense. Now you can see that once I'm in range of one of these Argos turrets, it does start going down quite quickly. The combined DPS of the heavy assault missiles plus the drones does a lot of damage. It's just how long it takes you to actually get in range. And now that I've started taking those turrets down, the shield is beginning to hold. But I'm not going to show the full sight because it's a long clear time. But by the time I hit that third and final wave, I was going so slowly, I could not get up close to those Sleepless Defenders quickly at all, and I did actually have to warp away, coming out in about 40% structure, which was just not fun. Far better instead to use the heavy missiles. You can literally just drop into a site, start moving towards something. If you know where the spawn points are, you can kind of get into the middle of those, drop your MTU and just orbit that at a close range of about 2,000 meters, and then just send your drones and missiles off after something. Really quite relaxed way of ratting or crabbing one of these sites, just to, you know, not have to worry about it too much. Admittedly, I've never been a huge fan. Oh, look at this screenshot. Sorry, this is hopefully the one I've probably used for the thumbnail, because just nice little angles there, plus the explosion in the background. Who doesn't like a good old-fashioned sleeper explosion? Anyway, yeah, I talk a lot in my videos about how I prefer something perhaps a little bit more active and engaging, which is why I tend to go for shorter range weapon systems like autocannons and heavy assault missiles, because I find that just kind of orbiting and pressing F1 when your target changes can get a little bit dull. But equally, sometimes it can be really relaxing, and if you're flying a Guristas ship, that's kind of the playstyle you're going for in PvE. It's that really relaxed, just kind of drift and shoot anything as it comes into range, and it does work. Like, there's no two ways about it. It does work, and it is effective. But when it comes down to it, I do prefer a little bit more activity on this. But you can see this fit is viable, but this is why I changed it to heavy missiles rather than heavy assault missiles. And those give a significantly faster clear time, like multiple minutes faster clear times through through all 4 of the sites. And the fact that you are not particularly concerned about your capacitor does mean that you don't even need to worry about the heavy neuting that some of these sites can put out, like the Aru's construct. 4 awakened upholders in that first wave, that's a lot of neutralization. Means you can't run the target painter, and the Multispectrum shield hardener does go off after a short period of time, but you've still got the EHP to survive that quite comfortably, and you're doing enough damage that you can pull them down quite quickly. They have to come close to you in order to use those newts, at which point you just rip them to shreds. Anyway, folks, that is the Guristas Pirates Alligator. I'm thoroughly enjoying this ship. I think this is a great viable option for people who are looking to PvE in something that is battlecruiser sized, using shields with drones and missiles. It's a very niche ship. It's basically the only one of its kind in the entire game. It's alpha viable. It works really, really well. It's a bit expensive right now, but that will go down with time. And obviously the pirate ships are always a little bit more expensive than some of the the Tech 2 or Tech 1 versions can be otherwise, but they give you sort of almost Tech 2 capabilities without the need for a mega at more of a, more than a Tech 1, more than a Tech 2 price. Basically, you're paying for that convenience in the middle there. Anyway, let me know what you think, folks. I'm sure there are ways that you could tweak this fit or improve it, and probably some people are going to want to fit this as an active tank, all kinds of different ways you could do this. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, so if you have any, please let me know. I'd love to have those discussions with you. Anyway, if you want to get your name in the stars at the end of the video, like the folks you're about to see, come join me on Patreon and consider dropping a donation into my PayPal tip jar. Come join us on the Catskull Discord and have a chat about all things EVE Online. Otherwise, happy sailing, and see you in New Eden!